Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be talking about something that's super important for the future: renewable energy.
It's really exciting stuff, actually. We're going to be diving deep into all the cool innovations happening in the world of clean power.
Yeah, stuff like solar and wind power, right?
Exactly. And we'll be talking about some even more futuristic stuff like hydrogen fuel and even harnessing energy from the ocean.
Okay, so by the end of this deep dive, listeners will have a much better understanding of all the latest and greatest advancements in renewable energy.
That's the goal. And they'll also understand why this shift from fossil fuels to clean energy is happening right now. I mean, it's a pretty big deal.
Right. So why are this happening? Why are we seeing this huge push to move away from fossil fuels? I mean, we've been relying on them for centuries.
Well, it really boils down to sustainability. You see, fossil fuels, those are things like coal, oil, and natural gas. Those release a lot of harmful greenhouse gases.
And those greenhouse gases contribute to climate change.
Exactly. Plus, fossil fuels are finite resources. We're eventually going to run out of them.
So they're not exactly a long-term solution?
Not really, no. Renewable energy sources, on the other hand, those are things like sunlight, wind, and water. Those are constantly being replenished.
So they're basically nature's infinite battery, right?
Exactly. And that makes them a much cleaner and more sustainable way to power our planet.
Okay, so we're basically moving away from digging up old dinosaur juice and tapping into nature's endless supply of clean energy instead. Sounds pretty good to me.
Right. It really is a huge shift.
Totally. Now, how does this shift impact everyday people? Why should listeners care about all of this?
Great question. Imagine a world that's less reliant on these unpredictable energy markets. Think about it. Cleaner air, a more stable climate. This transition to renewable energy, it's not just about saving the planet, it's about creating a better future for everyone.
Okay, that sounds pretty amazing. I'm definitely on board. Let's break down some of these innovations, starting with something I think most people are at least somewhat familiar with: solar power. We're seeing solar panels everywhere these days, but what's happening at the forefront of this technology? What's new and exciting in the world of solar?
One of the coolest things happening right now is the development of something called perovskite solar cells.
Perovskite solar cells. What are those?
They're basically a new type of solar cell that can convert sunlight into electricity even more efficiently than traditional silicon-based solar panels. We're talking about efficiencies of over 25% in some cases, which is a significant jump.
So we're talking about a major boost in efficiency. But what makes these perovskite cells so special? Are they just more powerful?
It's more than just power, though they are definitely more efficient. Perovskite cells are also lighter, thinner, and much more flexible than those clunky silicon panels we're used to seeing.
So we could see solar cells integrated into windows or even curved surfaces.
Exactly. We could capture energy in ways we never even imagined before. It's a pretty big deal.
It definitely is. But what happens when the sun goes down? Can solar power really be reliable, even when it's dark outside?
That's where solar storage technology comes in. We're seeing massive advancements in battery technology so we can store all that excess energy generated during the day and then use it at night.
It's kind of like having a solar-powered savings account for energy, right? You bank the sunshine when it's plentiful and withdraw it when you need it.
Exactly. It's pretty ingenious.
It really is.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about another renewable energy source that's always available: wind power. I see more and more wind farms popping up, especially those giant ones out in the ocean. What's driving that trend?
Yeah, those offshore wind farms are becoming increasingly popular for a few reasons. The wind speeds out at sea tend to be much stronger and more consistent, so that means they can generate a lot more power than those wind turbines we see on land.
So it's all about harnessing the power of the ocean breeze, right?
Pretty much. And as technology advances, the cost of building and maintaining these offshore wind farms is going down.
So they're becoming more economically viable. But how much power can one of these offshore wind turbines actually generate?
A single offshore wind turbine can power thousands of homes.
Wow, that's amazing. So we're talking about a serious amount of clean energy coming from a single source.
We are. And we're seeing rapid growth in offshore wind in Europe and Asia, and the US is starting to catch up quickly.
That's great to hear. But wind power isn't just for wide open spaces anymore, right? I've seen those sleek vertical axis wind turbines in cities. What's the advantage of those?
Oh yeah. Those vertical axis wind turbines are designed specifically for urban environments. They're much smaller and quieter than traditional wind turbines, so they fit in perfectly in cities and towns where space is limited.
It's like every city can become its own little wind farm.
Exactly. It's a pretty cool concept, right?
It is. Now let's move beyond solar and wind for a moment. I'm really curious about this whole hydrogen fuel thing. I've got to admit, it still seems a bit futuristic to me, like powering things with hydrogen.
I know, right? It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. But hydrogen fuel is a real thing, and it's got a ton of potential. When we use hydrogen as fuel, it produces only water as a byproduct.
Wait, so we're talking about zero emissions, just pure water vapor coming out of the tailpipe.
Pretty much, and that makes it incredibly clean.
Okay, I'm starting to see why people are so excited about this. But where does this hydrogen fuel even come from?
That's where green hydrogen comes in. It's produced using renewable energy sources like solar or wind power to split water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen.
So we're essentially using renewable energy to create hydrogen, which can then be used as fuel without releasing any nasty pollutants into the atmosphere.
Exactly. It's like a clean energy loop. It's a game changer. And green hydrogen has the potential to transform a bunch of industries, from transportation to heavy industries.
I can see why people are calling it a game changer. Now, speaking of untapped potential, I want to talk about our oceans. We've only touched on ocean energy briefly, but I'm really fascinated by the idea of harnessing the power of the waves and tides. It just seems like such a vast, untapped resource.
You're absolutely right. The ocean is this incredible source of energy, and there are a number of technologies being developed to tap into that potential. One of the most promising is tidal energy.
Tidal energy, how does that work?
It's all about capturing the energy of the rising and falling tides. We can use underwater turbines placed in areas with strong tidal currents.
So it's kind of like capturing the power of the moon's gravitational pull, right?
You could say that. It's amazing what we can do, and tidal energy is super reliable because the tides are so predictable.
I like that. Predictable and reliable, clean energy. What about wave energy? How do we capture the energy of those ocean waves?
We can use wave energy converters, which are specially designed devices that capture the motion of the waves and turn that mechanical energy into electricity. Some are built on the coastline, and others are floating devices out at sea.
So many cool possibilities. We're just starting to explore the potential of the ocean as an energy source.
We are, and the exciting thing is all of these renewable energy sources, solar, wind, hydrogen, ocean energy, they can all work together. We can create this super diverse and resilient energy system that relies on clean sources instead of fossil fuels.
That's a future I'm excited to see unfold. We've covered so much ground in this first part of our deep dive. It's incredible to see how much innovation is happening in the world of clean energy.
It is, and we're just getting started. Welcome back to the deep dive. Ready to explore more of those amazing advancements in renewable energy?
Definitely. Last time, we talked about why moving away from fossil fuels is so important and got a glimpse of all the incredible things happening with solar and wind power, hydrogen fuel, and even harnessing energy from the ocean. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, it is. Now let's zoom in a bit and take a closer look at some of the challenges these technologies face and how innovators are tackling them head on. Let's start with solar power. One of the biggest questions I hear is about its reliability. Like, what happens when the sun isn't shining?
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, solar panels can only generate electricity when the sun's out, right? How do we deal with that?
You're right, and that's why energy storage is so important. It's like creating a solar-powered bank. When the sun's blazing, those panels are producing more energy than we need at that moment. Instead of wasting it, we store it for later.
So we're talking about batteries, right? Those giant battery farms I've been hearing about.
Exactly. Large-scale battery storage is key for making solar power work seamlessly with the grid. These battery farms can store massive amounts of energy from those solar panels during the day and then release it back into the grid when the sun goes down, keeping the electricity flowing even when solar production dips.
So it's like having a giant backup generator, but instead of running on fossil fuels, it's powered by stored sunshine. Pretty neat.
It is. And while we're talking about solar, we can't forget about the advancements in the solar panels themselves. There's so much happening at the cutting edge of solar technology.
Yeah, what's going on there?
One of the most exciting areas is perovskite solar cells. Remember, we talked about them last time. They can be way more efficient than traditional silicon-based solar cells, sometimes exceeding 25% efficiency, meaning they can squeeze more electricity out of the same amount of sunlight. And they're not just more efficient, they're lighter, thinner, and more flexible, which opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
Yeah, I remember those flexible solar panels you mentioned. It's mind-blowing to think about how those could be integrated into buildings, windows, cars, you name it. Are there any hurdles researchers are facing with perovskite technology?
Well, one of the main challenges is durability. Perovskite solar cells are showing incredible potential in the lab, but researchers are working to make sure they can last in the real world. They need to hold up against moisture, heat, and all the other stuff Mother Nature throws at them if they're going to have a long lifespan.
Makes sense. We need to make sure they can keep pumping out clean energy for years to come, even in tough conditions.
Exactly. Now let's switch gears to wind power. Specifically, those massive offshore wind farms that are popping up all over the place. What makes offshore wind so attractive?
Yeah, I'm curious about that too. They look pretty impressive out there in the ocean.
They are impressive, and they have some big advantages over their land-based cousins. First, wind speeds are usually higher and more consistent out at sea, which means more energy generation. Plus, there's less turbulence offshore, so those turbines experience less wear and tear and run more smoothly.
So smoother sailing equals more power.
Exactly. And another bonus, because they're far from cities and towns, offshore wind farms often face fewer restrictions and can be built on a much larger scale, producing even more energy.
Okay, now I'm picturing these colossal wind turbines, taller than skyscrapers, just cranking out clean energy from those ocean breezes. It's pretty awesome. But building and maintaining those giants out in the ocean can't be easy, right?
You're right, it's definitely not a walk in the park. It takes specialized ships and equipment to install those massive turbine components, and keeping them running smoothly in that harsh saltwater environment requires a lot of maintenance.
Yeah, I can imagine the logistics of keeping those things spinning smoothly miles from shore.
It's a challenge for sure, but the potential benefits of offshore wind are so huge that engineers and developers are constantly finding new ways to overcome those hurdles. And as technology gets even better, offshore wind will become more and more viable.
It's really inspiring to see how these technological leaps are pushing the boundaries of what's possible. All right, now I want to circle back to hydrogen fuel. I know we talked about green hydrogen, but I'd love to get a clearer picture of how we actually produce this clean fuel.
Sure. Green hydrogen is made through a process called electrolysis, where renewable energy is used to split water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. It's like having a special device, powered by solar or wind energy, that separates water into its basic building blocks, creating hydrogen gas that can then be stored and used as fuel.
Wow, so it's a totally clean process. We're using renewable energy to make a fuel that only produces water vapor when we burn it. Pretty amazing. But I'm guessing scaling up green hydrogen production isn't a piece of cake. What are some of the roadblocks?
You nailed it. One of the biggest challenges is the cost. Electrolysis technology has come a long way, but it's still more expensive than making hydrogen from fossil fuels.
So we need to figure out how to make green hydrogen more affordable.
Exactly. And scientists are working on it. They're developing more efficient electrolyzers, finding ways to bring down the cost of renewable energy, and figuring out how to transport and store hydrogen more effectively. There's a lot of innovation going on in the green hydrogen space.
It's encouraging to see so much effort going into making green hydrogen a viable alternative to fossil fuels. Okay, now let's dive into that final frontier of renewable energy, the ocean. We touched on tidal and wave energy earlier, but I'm really eager to learn more about the specific technologies being used to harness these powerful forces.
Sure. When it comes to tidal energy, one of the most common approaches is the tidal barrage. Think of it like a dam built across a bay or estuary. As the tide goes in and out, the barrage traps the water, creating a difference in water levels on either side. That difference in height drives turbines, which generate electricity.
So we're basically creating a controlled flow of water to spin turbines, kind of like a hydroelectric dam.
Yep, that's a good analogy. But unlike those big dams, tidal barrages take advantage of the predictable power of the tides, which rise and fall like clockwork, giving us a very reliable source of energy.
I like that. Nature's rhythm generating clean power. Now, how about wave?
Different sources to tap into. From the sun and wind to the tides and waves, nature is giving us this incredible toolbox for generating clean, sustainable energy. And as technology keeps advancing, we'll find even more ways to harness that power.
It's such an exciting time to be following all these developments in renewable energy.
It is.